Welcome back, everybody. As we get rolling here on Sports Talk on a busy Monday afternoon, Adrian Broadus is taking the show off. So I have Alberto and Michael with me for the next 3 hours. That's right. I'm going to be flying with you till 7 o'clock. Chihuahua's off today. NHL Stanley Cup Finals will be happening. That's at 6 o'clock tonight, Game 2. You heard all the big stories that Michael mentioned. However, there was one story that just broke that he did not talk about. And it's a huge story with big-time ramifications for all of you high school sports fans. And that is the story that Rodney Lewis has stepped away from his head coaching job at Chapin. This is a monster story considering what he has been able to accomplish since he took over as head coach. And, he was hired in 2018. He has built Chapin up into a legitimate state power. A state power, not a city power, but a state power. And has decided to resign as Huskies coach today. And said that it's time, wants to spend more time with his family. Said the program is in great shape for the next coach. And you think about his resume. KJ Lewis, Bryson Goldsmith, Brandon Himes, Antoine Holmes, Jaden Leverett, and many more. And the last couple of seasons, what they've been able to do, going all the way to the Region 1-5A title game is huge. 34 wins last season. Regional semifinals the 2 other times. So, Rodney has made a terrific name for himself at Chapin High. And guys, I know we've got the Dan Hurley story. I know we have a lot of the other big stories that are making headlines right now. NBA Finals, obviously a huge conversation piece. I need to get UTEP Zay on this because he goes to Chapin so he can give us the thought process. Matter of fact, come over here, Zay. Come on into my studio for a second because I want to get Zay to jump in on this conversation as well because I know it's a big one for him and anybody that follows Chapin basketball. So Zay, why don't we start with you since I didn't even see you here until moments ago. But first off, did this story catch you a little bit off guard, or is this something that you've kind of been hearing some whispers about over the last few days and weeks?
Yeah, going to Chapin, obviously, I did hear a little bit of whispers. You hear them. I don't know if I believed them until, today. I think it's more of a surprise that it actually did happen. And, he had a great run, both at Chapin and Andrus as an assistant. So it's shocking to see him, depart, but, it's good for him.
It is, again, shocking because you're 53 years old. You've built Chapin into a legitimate powerhouse right now. And you say to yourself, well, the only thing bigger would be to maybe go to the DFW Houston area and take one of those monster schools and powerhouses and see if you can go win a state title with that. That's probably the only thing Rodney has not done considering what he's been able to do here in El Paso.
Yeah, and he can easily, score a job down there if he really wanted to, right? He has the coaching prowess. He has the resume to back him up. He put an El Paso team in the Elite Eight in back-to-back years. That's unheard of. That's hard to do in this day of age. So, obviously he has the talent to do that. But, maybe he just really does want to step down, take some time to himself. Coaching is a stressful job, especially at the high school level these days. There's a lot of, personality, stuff you have to deal with on and off the court. So, a lot of different things that he can do now.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And then on the flip side, the Chapin job now becomes not just a great opening, but this is one of the top jobs in the state that's opening up right now.
It really is. It really is. There's tons of resources, a great support base that you have there. And, this job, it obviously is going to, like you said, one of the hottest jobs in El Paso. It really, it's going to be difficult, living up to those expectations. I don't want to compare Chapin to Duke, but, if a Duke caliber-esque job were to open, right, you're going to be built with, expectations. And if you don't, match those expectations, there's going to be people on you. So obviously it's not the easiest job in the world, but I'm really interested to see who will be hired.
I am too. I mean, I guess the one thing that would make the most sense would be to take one of the assistants because they've learned under Rodney Lewis. They're familiar with the players. They know the system. So if you really want a seamless transition, that's a way to go.
Yeah, it definitely is the way to go. They have, a plethora of assistants who could step up and take that job. For me, I think, the one that I'd guess, makes the most sense at this point, it'd be Coach Castillo. He's one of the long-term assistants under Rodney Lewis. He's a younger guy. His brother coaches at Franklin. He's the head coach at Franklin. So I think that would be kind of, I'm not going to say the no-brainer choice, but that would be the choice if I were making this hire.
Well, and that's interesting. We've already reached out to Coach Lewis. We hope to get him on the show sometime today, which, by the way, will also feature Dave DuFour talking NBA Finals ball with us at 4:20. And then we're also going to get Tim Haggerty on at 5 to recap his trip to Cooperstown, New York, and what that was like, not to mention the wildest Chihuahuas game probably in their history on Saturday, the game where they came back from 15-1 down to win 17-16, which is a story in itself. But no, the Rodney Lewis story, again, a big one for all intents purposes. And again, you figure this also, too, is how much better can you expect to do than what he's done at Chapin over these last 6 years? The only thing bigger would be to win a state title because he's pretty much done everything but that.
Yeah, I mean, he has. And, you can't really take away from the fact of he rebuilt this program. When he came into Chapin in 2018, they weren't, this big powerhouse that we've, come to know them. They were a struggling team. It was tough playing basketball there. They had, a couple of losing seasons back to back, and he rebuilt them. He did it the right way. He built, a culture. So, like I said, it's not going to be easy for this next coach. The expectations, stuff like that. So, he really did do an amazing job there.
I find it hard to believe that Rodney Lewis is done with coaching. I mean, I would expect him to take another job. Maybe he's just going to wait for the right job to open. I don't necessarily think he takes any job in El Paso because, again, you have the ultimate job. I mean, you've built a powerhouse. You're not going to be able, most likely, to tap into any high school program and do more than what he's done at Chapin. So I almost feel like right now, if he's resigning to step away to spend time with his family, then that means that when the time comes to get back into teaching and to coaching, I would expect Rodney Lewis to go someplace else than El Paso, where he knows maybe he'll be able to coach that high-caliber athlete like he has here and deliver even bigger results because he'll have an even greater pool of talent to coach and choose from.
Yeah, when he came back in 2018, he was coaching in Glendale, Arizona for a year as an assistant. And when he came back, he said in an interview, the only two jobs that he would come back to El Paso for are Chapin and Andrews. So I completely agree with you. If he ever does get back into coaching, it'll probably be elsewhere. And I'm excited, I'd be excited to see, the things he can accomplish with, a team, like you said, in the DFW, maybe East Texas, Houston, somewhere like that.
We're talking to UTEP Zay, who will be a senior at Chapin, and somebody that knows that program as good as anybody around, discussing the story of the day, which is the resignation of men's basketball head coach Rodney Lewis after 6 years at Chapin High and with all those accomplishments. This is going to be a tougher question to answer, but I'll throw this at you anyway. Could you ever see a situation where another high school is able, over the same time period, to build themselves in El Paso into a power like Chapin? We've seen it with Andrus over the years, and the late Jim Forbes, what he was able to do. Other high school basketball programs have also had good runs, but maybe not as consistent as what we've seen now. But does Rodney Lewis and his accomplishments almost make you believe that, yes, basketball is a sport where you can win and you can go deep into a state playoff?
Well, like you said, that's a tough question, right? Because, the two teams that have done that, in recent memory are Andrus and Chapin, and Coach Lewis was part of both of those staffs. So, it's a tough thing to do. I really think it's only a select few schools that, you can even throw out their names and saying that they can do something like that, right? Maybe one of those big 6As, maybe a Franklin. Obviously Andrus is always going to be in that conversation, Parkland, but it's really tough. It's tough to do it out here. It's like I said, I think it really depends. You have to have the right guy, and Rodney Lewis, he was the perfect guy for that Chapin job.
Well, he was, but you talked about assistant coaches that could also, pick up and take over where he left off. Whoever gets this job, whether they stay internally or bring in somebody else, there is going to be an enormous amount of pressure for that next head coach because the bar has been set so high. And knowing his accomplishments and what he's been able to do, I'm so interested to see the coaching pool that applies for this job because even though we're thinking about Chapin assistants, you might find somebody that's got a terrific basketball coaching resume in high school sports who wants this because they've seen what Chapin's been able to do. They understand the talent that's coming in, and they realize that this is going to be a terrific job for whoever gets it.
Yeah, I mean, this job could set someone up, for a bigger job, right? I don't want to call it a stepping stone. They could set them up for a huge job, like in another part of Texas, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said, the expectation and the pressure it's going to be high, right? You not only do you have to live up to those expectations, you're going to have teams now they're really believing, hey, we can beat Chapin now, right? We can beat these guys. We can take them down. We can be that team. And every team in El Paso wants to be the team that breaks that 70-something game winning streak, So I really am interested to see who goes for this job, and I wouldn't be able to make a guess. Imagine
the fact that you're stepping away with that winning streak still intact. That's even more remarkable when you start to think about it, because whoever inherits the job inherits the winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, what a way to go out for him, right? Back-to-back Elite Eights, that big-time winning streak, and, just putting out and developing players, right? That's 3 straight El Paso MVPs. You got KJ Lewis, Brendan Himes, Bryson Goldsmith. He developed those guys from the bottom, right? Because they start as freshmen, it can go a lot of different ways. He kept them on track. He was like, I was at the signing for Brendan Himes. I mean, he called him a father figure. He did so much for these kids. So I just want to give my applaud to him.
Great job starting us off. We appreciate you, Zay. Thanks for coming in today and giving us a little lowdown. All right. UTEP Zay weighing in to begin the show. We'll do a little Dave DuFour next, talk some NBA Finals hoops. But first, let's go to Charlie 1 and get our first of many traffic updates here this afternoon. Right there.
We're having a phone situation. You guys tried to call me, and I literally did not get a phone call. Maybe it's the phone's fault.
Maybe it is the phone's fault. You know what? Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I'm happy you're with us right now. Happy we're back and getting ready to talk a little hoops with you, a little NBA on a crazy day today. Look at what's happened in the last 12 hours. Look what we're dealing with. Dan Hurley decides to stay at UConn. We've got an 0-2 deficit for Dallas in the NBA Finals, and that's just the top 2 stories going on. There's even more happening, but why don't we just begin anyway with the Hurley story, because that's a big one since everybody thought he was going to take the money because it was going to be such a large offer. Hurley decided to stay east. I commend him because, the Lakers, Dave, probably one of the top 3 jobs in basketball. You can look at the Celtics, the Lakers. I've heard people call the Knicks one of the top 3 jobs, but maybe now it is. They weren't relevant a few years ago, but now they certainly are. But when you get the chance to go to L.A. and you turn down $70 million to stay at UConn, that says a lot about Dan Hurley and what he's accomplished or what he wants to continue to accomplish out there at UConn.
You know what it says to me? It says to me that he's about to get a nice fat raise from UConn. I'm a little bit more crass when I'm looking at these things. I think the Lakers job is the best job in the NBA because it's only a 1-year job. You're talking $70 million in guaranteed money.
Yep.
I would have taken that in a heartbeat. You get fired, you go do the coaching tour and hang out for a few years, do TV. Sounds awesome. To me, this was always like a leverage ploy for Dan Hurley. Why would you leave a perfect college basketball situation? It made no sense to me to go and not even get to coach because, and we've talked about this before, LeBron James is uncoachable. He doesn't really need a coach. They need more of just a guy who can maybe open a bottle of wine and have a conversation with LeBron every couple weeks. This is why J.J. Redick actually made a lot of sense. And the most shocking part of this whole Dan Hurley thing is that today we find out that the Lakers and J.J. Redick haven't even sat down for a formal interview yet. So I don't even know how far along in the hiring process the Lakers are. They claim that they're going to have a coach in place before the draft gets here, but the draft is coming fast. So I'm not sure. And what does it even matter if you get a coach in before the draft? You are both too good and not good enough for the coach to affect who you draft this year in the draft. So I don't know. It seems like a little bit of a mess.
That's for sure. It does. I'm not gonna argue that. Although, I mean, I also heard his wife really likes to stay in the Northeast. And let's be honest, happy wife, happy life, especially if you've got somebody that says, we don't need the money. We're already getting paid huge dollars. I don't want to move to Los Angeles. I want to stick around. Maybe that also had something to play into it.
I mean, I hope so. This has actually been one of my big hopes for the coaching profession is that these people would get off the corporate ladder and just find out that, hey, you know what? I got a pretty good situation here. I got a chance to actually build a program. This is, to me, he's in a dream position as a basketball coach. He's the head coach at a major university, has 2 national championships, has a recruiting pipeline, the likes of which it's untouched right now. And he's making more money than anyone in the state, state employees outside of Gino. That's a pretty good job as far as basketball jobs go. You get to live in Connecticut, which is a nice, quiet place. The traffic's not too bad. Easy jaunts over to New York City when you want to have a really great meal. I can't come up with a better basketball situation.
Well, I'm with you on that one. And Dave, now, like you said, we've been hearing J.J. Redick's name for weeks. And if they haven't even offered him something, that tells me that suddenly they decided they wanted to shoot. Maybe they tried to say, you know what, why should we limit ourselves? Why can't we go after the biggest name in college and see if he'll take it? But now that he has said no, you're right. It would look awfully strange if suddenly the Lakers go and now J.J. Redick realizes, well, he was kind of their plan B all along.
This... And again, I'm just a little bit too crass. You know how the last few years, you always heard around this time of year, you always heard Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson's name brought up in coaching searches. And you didn't hear them this year when they're not on TV. And there's a reason for that. Because their agents like to work to get them bigger on TV. And so there's this false sense of demand for these guys among, fake coaching searches. I actually felt the same way about the J.J. Redick thing. I felt like the team was putting this out there. Didn't really ever say anything. There's a lot of denials when people ask about it. But it's not hard to get a rumor started. We know how the Internet is. Apparently, Buster Olney's Twitter account has been hacked. And so, someone has sent out some fake trades, and people were sharing these things. Very easy to start a rumor. And so, you think about this. If you're trying to maybe get a bigger TV deal, remember, he wasn't supposed to be the lead commentary guy in the finals. He's had to step up into that job once Doc Rivers left. So all of this is sort of playing out in a very, it's a little bit of a chess match, in my opinion. And it very much is about leveraging money on a next contract for me. J.J. Redick is the basketball coach of the Lakers. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I think at the very least, it's a person that LeBron seems to respect. But as we know, LeBron has hand-chosen other coaches, and they haven't lasted either. So
yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, it really doesn't make a difference. I just don't really know anymore. And we're almost at the point where I think, is LeBron going to leave L.A.? That's where my head goes. They don't have a coach in place. There's no real option that makes sense. And where do they go from here in a way that everyone saves face and you feel like you're coming out better the next season? Frank Vogel's available, and he did a pretty decent job with LeBron and AD. So, maybe they wind up going that route. I don't know, but this is a soap opera.
It's a good one. And by the way, I mean, we don't know this because nobody knows what was going on in Hurley's mind, but do you think that maybe Hurley even thought, even if you're going to pay me $70 million, do I really want to have to be the person that has to try to coach LeBron, knowing that LeBron's not going to listen to anybody? So why would Dan Hurley suddenly think that he would listen to him?
Well, as a basketball coach, why would you put yourself in a position, especially one as successful as him? This isn't Darvin Ham taking his first coaching job, and it happens to be the LA Lakers. That's an amazing. By the way, Darvin Ham, a good coach who now back in Milwaukee, but was super in demand for teams looking to staff up for next season. But this is a different situation. He's got a great situation where he's at. You're right. Why would you put yourself in the position where you can't coach LeBron? Not only that, where oftentimes you're kind of undermined on national television. I mean, think about the way that people have talked about Darvin Ham this year. And I'll tell you, I know a lot of people who worked with him firsthand in Milwaukee. The stories don't really match up. And that's just kind of how the PR machine works when you go into that Lakers environment. And so, if you're Dan Hurley, why would you deal with any of that? I never understood his name being involved. Never got it.
Dave DuFour joining us from The Athletic as we continue here on Sports Talk, and we hit the bottom of the hour. NBA Finals, 2-0 lead right now for the Celtics. They held home floor. They've, found ways to take advantage of Dallas mistakes. I know Luka gets the triple-double, but he also had 5 turnovers in the second half after scoring 23 points in the first half. And, the Celtics made him pay. They did exactly what you've expected them to do in big moments all playoff long. Why all of a sudden has it clicked more against Dallas versus these other teams, including Indiana, where despite the sweep there, Dave, 3 of the 4 games were close games?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of the styles make fights situation happening there. And the Pacers' ability to push the pace, which is funny because it's in the name, but their ability to push the pace really tested Boston. And let's not forget, they didn't have Kristaps Porzingis. I mean, that's the biggest difference, I would say, for the Celtics. They were always able to just get through on their talent, but now they have talent, and they're actually able to do their scheme and execute it properly. His rim protection is huge for them. It actually makes Derek White an even more effective rim protector. And then offensively, we know what he brings. And as we've seen in these first 2 games, his ability to just shoot over small guards has made him unguardable. But the biggest thing that's been a difference in this series for them is that they've been posting him up against bigs. They just say, you know what? We're not worried about it. We don't think any of these guys can guard you. And so far, they haven't been able to. So, I mean, it's more a matter of, I think, the health situation for Boston has just improved so much. That week off was clearly huge for everyone on that team. They all look fresh. And, I mean, think about the amount of ball pressure that they're putting on the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, how many times have you seen Luka Doncic just straight up ripped the way he has been in the first 2 games? I mean, Derek White's gotten him a couple times. Jaylen Brown's gotten him a couple times. Drew Holiday's gotten him a couple times. And I think that that's the other part of it is just they are a never-ending series of guys who can guard their position. And this is just, the culmination of what has been a fantastic season for them. And I call this, they're a very good team, not quite a great one, because I just don't see them hit their ceiling enough. But we've seen them for stretches in this series so far, I think already. Defensively, we've seen that ceiling. They are incredible defensively. If they had a more consistent offense that maybe wasn't as predicated on living and dying by the 3, I would feel maybe the other way about their offense. But remember, this is still a historic offense that they've got out there too. So it's more that this is what we've seen from them all year. They're just executing it exactly the way that they need to right now, in a way that maybe they haven't the rest of the time. And they still have had flashes where, we call it, jerk ball amongst ourselves in our group chat because they just sometimes play like jerks. They'll take a jerk shot here and there. But on aggregate, they have just been so good. The shot diet has actually been good, even though they're not making them. They're getting good looks. And when you couple that with their excellent defense and the job that they've done keeping the Mavericks away from the corner three, which has been their bread and butter. You tip your cap and you say the Celtics are the best team this year.
Yeah, Holiday was terrific yesterday. He shot the ball lights out and gave you a little bit of everything with those 11 rebounds along with his 26 points. And how about this? Jason Tatum on a 6 for 22 shooting night still gives you the other numbers, the 9 boards, the 12 assists, and yet has a terrible shooting performance, and you don't need him. That's big.
Yeah, and this has sort of been the story for Boston, not just this season, but, since Tatum's been there and in this playoff run. They're now 6-0 in games that he shoots below 40%. That number stands out, and a lot of people use it as a way to sort of disparage Jason Tatum. And I think that, it's funny that they disparage him by saying, well, he's not a top 5 guy. He's more of a 5 to 10 guy, which is not really disparaging a guy. He's not one of the 5 best players. He's only one of the 10 best. But the shooting is a real concern, in my opinion, because at some point he needs to make shots in this series. They're probably going to sweep or win in 5, so maybe he doesn't have to hit shots. But if they're going to do this again next year, and, that's where our head goes, we're already thinking, can they repeat? But the thing that keeps him from getting to that top level has been playmaking, which we're seeing more of when the shot's not falling, and that's good. But I still think he's got to be a primary scorer for them at some point in this series. We know we're going to get a Luka game at some point. He needs to counteract the Luka game and have a Tatum game. Like, he needs a 40-point game, in my opinion. Just sort of a legacy thing. He's going to win a title. And, when we get into talking about these players in the fun way that we do about their legacies, I do think that it will come up a lot that he's being carried a little bit to a title because he's not putting up those scoring numbers. But you're right. He had 12 assists. He could have had 18 or something like that. I think they missed 6 open looks off Tatum's driving kick. And this has been the secret for what they've done against Dallas in these 2 games. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum have done an excellent job of getting 2 feet in the paint and finding a shooter. And so as long as they're doing that, I think if you're Boston, you're fine with those guys not scoring. It's great if everyone scores 20. If you get 20 each out of your starting lineup, the way that the playoffs have been going for Boston, that's a win. So I think you don't change anything. If you're Dallas, you got to try to keep these guys out of the paint. But really, the series has been won on the other end. The Boston defense has just taken away everything from the Mavericks. And Jason Tatum, as much as his playmaking led them offensively in this game, I think his defense has been extra important for them at the other end. So he's having a very good, I would say a good series. He's not having a great series.
Dave, I feel like all eyes are on Kyrie heading back to Dallas because he's had a couple of off games shooting-wise, and he played so well in their series against Minnesota. Luka's going to do what Luka does. You always feel like it has to be Kyrie getting back to some of that playoff form that he's been able to flash this postseason if the Mavs are going to have any kind of chance.
Well, at some point, people are going to pick up on this, but Kyrie has lost 12 straight to Boston. He hasn't broken 25 points in 10 straight games against the Celtics. Now, I'm of the opinion that you can figure out how to guard a guy. And I think that these dudes turn it up a little bit against Kyrie. Now, I don't think that they hate him or anything, but, former teammate, I think that they do get juiced up a little bit. And when you hear the way that the Boston crowd treats Kyrie, I think that fires them up a little bit too. So part of this has been Kyrie has had to work very hard to get the looks that he's got. Now, he's missed some makeable shots for him, but none of these have been easy. Boston's defense has really figured out how to guard him. And you're right. I do think that this Game 3 coming up is the Kyrie game because it's do or die for Dallas. This is it. This is their entire season. If they lose this game, it is over. I think that likely the finals are over already. 2-0, you don't get a lot of 2-0 comebacks. Definitely, we've never had a 3-0 comeback, so this is it. If Kyrie's going to break the curse and get that monkey off of his back, this is the game to do it. So he has to score. He has to look to score, and he's got to do it early. But it's not just Kyrie. Listen, Kyrie has yet to make a 3 in this series. Luka Doncic has hit 8. The rest of the Mavericks has hit 5. It needs to be more than just Kyrie. Kyrie is not doing enough. Kyrie needs to get 25, 30. The rest of those role players, they've got to hit threes. They've hit 2 corner threes through 2 games. Both of them happened. They were like the first 3-pointer made of the game for Dallas. And that was it. The water just gets shut off. So they've got to figure out a way to get looks for these guys. But these guys have got to hit some of these non-corner threes that are opening up too. Luka is making the look happen. He's making some of the most ridiculous passes that we've seen in the finals ever. It's like he makes it more difficult on purpose sometimes. But he's finding these guys, and they're not making shots. So it's as much Kyrie as it is the role players. And I think, Kyrie has the name, so you do put more pressure on him. But without the role players also doing something, it doesn't matter.
Follow Dave on Twitter at Dave DuFour NBA. That's Dave, DuFour NBA. And you can check out his great work at The Athletic. Before I let you go, I saw your post from less than an hour ago about how you were walking home from the gym and you were talking to a 4-year-old girl dribbling a basketball. I thought it was really cool. For our listeners to know, Dave's going home, sees a girl dribbling a ball.
Not true.
What's that?
This is not a true story. This is me making fun of people.
Oh, I wanted you to go with that one,
No.
Dave. You could have had some fun with that. Come on.
No
Dave.
way. Actually, you know what I want to ask you? Because you've been in this business longer than I have. And this is just one of the silly discourse surrounding women's basketball right now is honestly, it's depressing.
Yeah.
It's depressing. This should be a time where everyone's having fun with a new thing. And instead, they've chosen to just make it nothing to do with the games, nothing to do with the fun atmosphere. I mean, every single friend that I talk to that have started going to WNBA games lately, which is a lot of women that I know, they've brought up the ticket prices. Not one time have I seen in the national media someone talking about the fact that the WNBA is actually capitalizing because the prices are cheap. It's a sporting event. It's not a corporate event like the NBA. There's so many positive angles you could take without talking about the game. And so it's frustrating to me that people who don't actually do anything with basketball. I mean, I do grassroots work, but that's separate from what I do in media. But there's this whole grow the game thing. And I'm sorry, but children aren't sitting around watching the morning talk shows where people yell at each other. That's not what's getting kids to play sports. Kids are playing sports because we're doing a better job than our parents did at getting girls into sports, period. They're more available. We're just better as a society at that. So, it's just the discourse around this stuff is so silly. So I had to poke a little fun, at our colleagues.
Well, you did a good job with that. I was really hoping that it would have been such a good story. But it's true.
I do. If I see a kid with a basketball, though, I chat him up, and I rebound for a lot of kids out here. So
there you go. And I hope we see more.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you right now, I feel like we're seeing more and more girls, whether it's basketball, volleyball, softball. The activity level probably right now is higher than it's ever been before. Hopefully it stays that way.
I don't see it going down, and you know why? There's a lot of money in it.
Travel ball, my God. Yes, there's a lot of money in travel ball, period. But yes, you're 100% right about that. All right, look, enjoy yourself. Let's hope we got a series to talk about later this week. And as always, appreciate the time and the insight, Dave. Thanks so much.
Take care. Talk soon.
Dave DuFour with us from The Athletic as we continue here on Sports Talk. 42 past the hour. Back with more in a moment. It's 600 ESPN El Paso. 49 past the hour. As we continue here on Sports Talk, just confirmed Rodney Lewis will be calling in at 6 p.m. tonight. So we'll have Tim Haggerty in 10 minutes, Rodney Lewis in an hour and 10 minutes, and that show continues to work better and better for us. Being the big news, if you're just joining us, Rodney Lewis, the head coach of Chapin, has resigned from his post as Huskies head coach. And Coach has been a great friend to the show over the years. Looking forward to having him back and talking a little bit about the big decision today when he leads off our 6 o'clock hour. In the meantime, I'll ask Alberto and Michael this question. Gentlemen, do you think that Dallas can get into this series again and win one of the next two to at least force a Game 5 back in Boston, or are the Celtics just too good?
I think they'll probably get one. I think that Dallas will probably get one at home. Unfortunately for them, though, I think this is too far gone. Best case scenario, or you would have wanted them to get one over there with at the Celtics home, but they didn't. So unfortunately, things are just kind of looking like it's just not going to be possible, right, for the Mavericks to put together 4 games that you think, all right, you're way better than the Celtics. It's not happening, right? It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I think the Mavericks are out. They'll probably lose 4-1, and the Celtics will get their ring. What do you think, Michael?
I certainly think Dallas can come back. I mean, if you look at the history of teams that have, overcome a 2-0 deficit, in the NBA Finals, it's kind of recent. The Bucks did it back in 2021 over the Suns when they were down 2-0. And Dallas, they got the talent. They really do. They just need Kyrie to get going. His last 2 performances have been very underwhelming. You're already getting great play out of Luka Doncic. Just needs to limit those turnovers. So I certainly think Dallas has the talent to come back.
Okay. I think they have the talent. My question to you guys is this, okay? If they have the talent, it's not all Kyrie, but he needs to get back on track. Like, if Kyrie and Luka both have great games, you feel like you still need something else, right? You can't just expect the 2 of them to get it done.
Well, I think it's because the Celtics are overloaded with talent. They're getting it done all over the floor. I think you look at Tatum, and he's having a horrible series, and the Mavericks are trying to play mind games and plant the seed of doubt in his mind. The thing is, the Celtics don't need him to play well. They have other guys that can get it done. Kristaps Porzingis comes back at the best time of ever, arguably, and he comes back looking phenomenal. And he has 2 great games in a row. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think it'd be good to have Kyrie have a good game. Unfortunately, I think the Celtics have his number, and I think that's just kind of like it's hard. It's difficult to beat that team, and then when they have your number, you have ties to the team. I think that makes it way harder, and the fans don't like you. So I think that it all just compounds on Kyrie, and it's just far too much. That
stat, by the way, that we just heard, which is it's a crazy stat. What now? Is it the last 10 or 12 games? 12 games that Kyrie has lost to the Celtics, and they've kept him under 20 all like the last 10?
Yeah, I think it was something like that, and it's just kind of speaks to the dominance that the Celtics have over him in particular, right? And it might be something mental, or it might just be purely all physical, that they just have all the ability over him. It's just you need him to have better games if you want to win the series, and as of now, you haven't.
No, it's true. It really is. As we wind down hour number 1 of 3 here on the show. Again, good topics to talk about. A lot of interesting things that really made headlines over the weekend. The big story locally with Coach Lewis, but nationally, you think about the story with Dan Hurley, saying no to the Lakers. Some people are saying that this should never even have been a story, meaning the Lakers never had a chance to get Dan Hurley. It wasn't even a money issue. Maybe Dan, out of respect, at least flew down to talk to the Lakers. But this could be a guy that never had any intentions to leave UConn under any circumstances, no matter how much money the Lakers are throwing at him.
Yeah, but like people have already said, well, maybe it's kind of a way to get your negotiating power up at UConn. Unfortunately for me, I kind of see it as, well, the Lakers are, let's face it, one of the premier institutions in the NBA, right? They're one of the franchises that you look back and they have a lot of history, they have a lot of success, and they're one of the top franchises.
Yes.
So if you don't leave UConn to go to the Lakers, you're probably never going to leave UConn. And so just kind of, to me, it's, well, where's the next step for your career? You're going to keep ruling at UConn, and then that's it, right? You're just going to eventually retire, and you'll never, ever try to break into the NBA.
Who cares? Do you think that bothered Coach K for all the years he was at Duke?
I don't think it bothers them, but I think a lot of fans it feels like the natural next step to want to try to fill into the NBA, right?
Point is this. No matter who you are as a college coach, the failure rate is so much higher in the NBA. You don't see too many like Larry Brown, who succeeded at Kansas winning a national title and then had a great run in the NBA as a head coach for all those years. There aren't a lot of guys like that. So if you're Dan Hurley, I can understand why not. All right, we got 1 down, 2 to go. Tim Haggerty will lead off hour number 2 in a moment as Sports Talk continues. 600 ESPN El Paso. Ooh. Welcome back, everybody, as we continue here on Sports Talk, hour number 2 of 3, along with Alberto Duetta, Michael Plundo. I'm Steve Kaplowitz. We hope to get Tim Haggerty on the phones here shortly. Having some issues today dialing out. What's going on with that? We're having phone problems.
Yeah, I don't know. The calls aren't going out. I think that's what's wrong. We're receiving calls, but they're not going out.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know.
Well, hopefully Hags calls the hotline. I just sent him a text, and we'll see if he can call the hotline. And there it is. Bingo. Just like that. That's what we're going to start to do. You know what? Why worry about calling guests when they can just call us? That is a perfect way to go, and it's a great way to transfer in to our guest to begin hour 2 of the program. He is the voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas and a man who joins us normally 4 days out of the week, Tuesday through Friday. But I figured even if it's his day off, the man just got back from Cooperstown. What a cool trip that's got to be. Speaking at the Society of Baseball Research in terms of the Negro Leagues and those that are not yet in the Hall of Fame and maybe will be someday, talking about the one and only voice of the El Paso Chihuahuas, Tim Haggerty. Hags, welcome back. Good to hear your voice, and happy that you made it back okay in time to do yesterday's game.
Yeah, I was too. Had a chance to call the first game of the series on Tuesday, was away for the middle 4, and then the finale. It shows the length of these Pacific Coast League series. I feel like I went to so many different places and then came back, and it was still the same series for the Chihuahuas, which I really like. I really feel the team and myself and really a lot of people on the staff, you feel settled for those 6-game homestands and then a 6-game road trip. It's nice and neat. It didn't always used to be that way.
Well, if you're going to leave in the middle of a series, it has to be for something important. It just does, because you're not going to just remove yourself from your day job where you work essentially 166 out of 170 games, or is it 170? I don't know, 146 out of 150, right? That's what we're talking about here.
That's right. Exactly. Okay. Yep.
So if you're doing that, then for you, the joining the Society for American Baseball Research at the Hall of Fame, that's going to be the kind of job that you're going to want to take advantage and be a part of. And you had a chance to do that. This is not your first time, your first go-around. You've done it before. But when you were given the opportunity to join this conference at the Hall of Fame, probably something you just couldn't pass up, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, this winter I got a message inviting me to speak at the Baseball Hall of Fame, which is obviously a great honor. And I don't like to miss games. As you described, it would have to be something big. But I felt like on this one I had to find a way to do it. And it's been such a busy summer when it comes to the Negro Leagues. As baseball fans know, Major League Baseball just announced a week and a half ago that select Negro Leagues are having their statistics now classified as major leagues. So they're been in the news a lot for that. And then this winter, a committee is going to decide on potentially some Negro Leaguers to enter the Hall of Fame. So that was one of the themes of this conference. And one of the players involved, Cannonball Redding, is somebody I've done research on and wrote an article about his life and career years ago, and I think that's why they selected me for that. He was a great pitcher.
So I understand that when you're going to Cooperstown, my biggest question is, where'd you fly into? Because you can't fly into Cooperstown. You got to basically fly someplace, rent a car, and drive up there. So what city did you end up flying into?
Yeah, I flew into Albany, New York, which was 90 miles away. And you're right, from there, once you land in Albany, you're not done. And I arrived at around 10:30 p.m., and it's quite a journey on some dark roads.
Oh.
It's a very scenic drive during the day, but very dark at night. It reminded me of going to college in rural Vermont, where we forget about that when we live in a city like El Paso, where the streets are all so well lit. I mean, I was just on the lookout for any wildlife ready to jump out at me. But it was so green. That was the one thing, is that I have been to Cooperstown in the past, but had never been during the summer, just because I'm lucky to broadcast games for my job, and I'm often pretty much every day at a ballpark during the summer. So this was my first time going that time of year, and just stunning scenery around the Hall of Fame. If any baseball fans listening haven't been, it is worth it.
Tim Haggerty with us here on Sports Talk. Dick Cannonball Redding is the player you talked about. Now, he was known as a pre-Negro League star. So does that mean that he played around, the early 1900s?
Exactly. Yeah. So the first Negro leagues that have been classified as major league was in 1920, but there were professional leagues prior to that. And Redding's best years were in the 1910s. And if you look at the archives, he has the best statistics out of pitchers from 1911 through 1920. In addition to that, Steve, what I really think is big when it comes to looking at historical figures like this is the endorsements of teammates and people that faced him. There's a Hall of Fame hitter, Ben Taylor, a Negro Leagues player from the exact same time. Taylor was a great batting average hitter, and he is in the Hall of Fame, and he called Redding the toughest pitcher to hit. Now, to me, if somebody like that is complimenting a pitcher like that, that's something that should go into his Hall of Fame case. Additionally, there was different rankings from ex-Negro League players and people who covered these games, like sports writers, and he's right up there in all of them as far as polls on the best Negro Leagues pitchers. So to me, that carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. And someone that I guess it's just hard to measure because of the time period he played in. In fact, interestingly enough, he only lived to the age of 58. So here's a guy that debuted in 1911, finished in 1932, but you look at his numbers and what he was able to do, and pretty impressive, pretty impressive career.
So, and what you just said, I think, is part of why he's not in the Hall of Fame. That is something somebody in the audience asked me after my speech about him. Well, okay, he's this great. Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? And I think that's part of it, is that he died in 1948, so he didn't live to be an old man doing interviews about his career the way Satchel Paige and others did. He really faded because of that. That happens even now, I think. Jim Cott, a famous broadcaster, just stayed in the limelight for so long that he continued to be in the discussion and got into the Baseball Hall of Fame 2 years ago. And I think when a player, after their career, passes away early, they don't have a chance to do that.
Hags, I'm curious for you. Was this entire trip essentially spent listening to others in Cooperstown present their cases, and then you had the opportunity to get up and talk about Cannonball Redding?
Yes, exactly. The day before the speech, I had a great, memorable day. I've been in contact with a few people that work there just on various projects over the years, one of which gave me a behind-the-scenes tour. He put on the surgical gloves, and he let me hold Babe Ruth's bat from the 1920s. I mean, think about the history behind that of what you're holding. Let me hold this trophy that was given to the New York Giants in 1889. Just amazing the stuff they have in that building, that even beyond what's on display. So that was a great experience on Thursday, then gave the speech on Friday, and there's no afternoon flights that will get you from Cooperstown to El Paso. So I really had an afternoon to kill, so then I drove to Vermont, where I went to college, and reconnected with that town, and then drove back to Albany the following morning and flew back on Saturday.
Excellent. So so the day you had the chance to go, hold Babe Ruth's bat, did you get the chance to walk around the hall a little bit and just, familiarize yourself with everything that the hall has to offer?
I did that whole day. That was my goal on Thursday. Exactly. Got the behind-the-scenes tour. Really spent time in the plaque gallery, which was a great morning. I looked at pretty much all plaques, which is more than 300 of them. They have a great new exhibit on the Negro Leagues. They have some of the great previous exhibits I had seen. And, for me, as somebody that loves baseball history, getting to do what I do for my job, I found it actually even more affecting than when I went as a kid. It just makes you think about the Chihuahuas and the crowds we have, and now that we have so many games of Chihuahuas history, just kind of what we're doing every night, broadcasting these games. We're really fortunate. So that was one of the things I took away from it, was just maybe an even greater appreciation for the Chihuahuas and the fans and the ballpark and, types of games and players that will be talked about for years to come.
Very true. And then you come back, and on the day on the trip back, you end up missing arguably one of the greatest comebacks, if not the greatest comeback, in Chihuahua's history, which Anthony Reifenberg had a chance to call because he was filling in for you on the mic, which featured a 15-1 come-from-behind 17-16 win. It also featured a bench-clearing incident involving two catchers on each team, a catcher on each team. I mean, Hags, this game had everything you could possibly imagine.
Yes, I certainly wish that game happened in one of the 146 that I will call out of 150, but of course it happened in one of the other 4. It was shocking. I talked to Chihuahua's manager, Pete Zamora, about it. I said, okay, so at what point did you think it was possible? And he said when the score went from 15-1 to 15-8, that was the point where he said, okay, there's still enough game here that this could happen. What the Chihuahuas did on Saturday has never happened in a Major League game. The biggest comeback in Major League history is 12 runs. The Chihuahuas were down 15-1. I mean, put that in perspective. There was a game in Single A, Burlington versus Clinton in the Midwest League in 2014, and the score in that one was 17-1, and Clinton came back to win the game. That's the only game that I could find in recent memory of a bigger comeback than what the Chihuahuas did. So, yeah, as you mentioned in your question, it's the biggest comeback in Chihuahuas history. It literally is one of the biggest comebacks in the history of professional baseball.
Do you find that when you take vacations and little trips, you will sometimes miss one of the most significant games of the season? Is this a pattern that has plagued you over the years?
It absolutely is. I've called just about every Chihuahuas game they've ever had, with a handful of exceptions. In 2021, Anthony Reifenberg called a series in Albuquerque. My wife had to attend a memorial service, and so I was here with our son, and Anthony called that series. And that night, Luke Westfall pitched a 5-inning unofficial no-hitter. I've never seen a no-hitter of any kind, including a rain-shortened one like that. Anthony called that. And now the biggest comeback, really, that anyone's ever heard of in recent years, biggest in Chihuahua's history, happens when I was gone as well. So, yeah, there haven't been many games that I wasn't part of the broadcast, and I guess when you hear someone else calling a Chihuahuas game, stay tuned, because the studies are showing that something's bound to happen.
Meanwhile, the Chihuahuas have won 3 in a row as they get ready to hit the road to take on Albuquerque this week. And they're 14 back of first place Sugarland. I guess if there is one silver lining, they have not one but 2 series coming up this month against the Space Cowboys.
Exactly. And another silver lining is since last year when the Pacific Coast League switched to the split season format, the standings are going to reset in late June. So the Chihuahuas will not win the first half, but they could have a hot second half and make the playoffs. The Chihuahuas in their first many years did not have that opportunity. There were years where really the team, for the most part, has had winning seasons, as you know, but on the occasions that they haven't, like 2021, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So, yeah, there's a saying that in late June, the Chihuahuas will be tied for first again. So it looks like Sugarland and Sacramento will win the first half. They will then host the best-of-3 Pacific Coast League Championship Series in September, and then whoever they will play will be determined in the second half.
Very nice. All right, before I wrap it up with you, you got to tell us just what it was like when you held Babe Ruth's bat with the gloves on. Did it just feel so much heavier than a typical bat like you see today in professional ball?
Yes, my first thought was absolutely do not drop this. Just be so careful with this. You can't be known as the guy who messed up this $1 million artifact. The thing I noticed was the heaviness of it, and then also the shape. These days, professional baseball bats, it's thinner on the handle, and then once you reach the label, then it thickens up. It's almost like more of a club.
Yeah.
Whereas Ruth's, there wasn't as much of a difference between the barrel and the label. If you can picture what I mean, it was a slower incline for it getting bigger. So not only the heaviness, but the shape.
Wow. The fact that the handle was that much, wider than they typically are probably makes you just marvel more at how he was able to swing, connect, and without those larger barrels, hit just an incredible amount of home runs during his career. So yeah, that's a terrific thing to get a chance to be a part of. I like the fact that over the years you've worked your connections out to get the little extra special perks that nobody else can.
Yeah, I felt really lucky for that. I did not ask for that. There's a researcher there, Tom Schieber. just occasionally as my hobby of baseball history articles. Occasionally he and I have been in touch. He's read them, and we had never met in person until this. But I got the feeling he really enjoys this part of his job, taking somebody around for a one-on-one tour. He had certain things planned, and it was very memorable. Just not to bore people with the specifics, but even like the documents, they have these handwritten letters from ex-ball players that when the player passes away, the family will donate them to the Hall of Fame. So you're getting correspondence between these Hall of Fame players in their own handwriting on ink with letters dated in the 1930s. Really special.
Very cool. All right. Well, listen, we'll catch up with you again tomorrow in Albuquerque. Appreciate the time, and thanks for sharing a little bit about what you did while you were gone.
No, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. He's Tim Haggerty, voice of the Chihuahuas, joins us as we continue. Let's go to Charlie with traffic and then back with a whole lot more right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. Lewis, who made headlines today announcing his resignation from Chapin High as head boys basketball coach, will join us at 6 o'clock on the show. We continue right now with Alberto Orueta, Michael Plundo, and Zay Galindo hanging out as well. Let's check Twitter and X and see what's new today at 600 ESPN El Paso. This came in on Twitter and X from Esteban. Steve, you and especially Adrian routinely blow through the programming breaks. You baited Anthony Reifenberg, you set him up, and then you humiliated him by blatantly cutting him off. All right, let me address this because if you listen to Friday's show, Story Time with Anthony was hyped up for 48 hours. We told Anthony on Wednesday about it, gave him a little background about what Hags will do, and kind of told him that usually, Tim in a couple of minutes gives us a great story, and we get a chance to talk about it and go from there. Now, so Esteban understands this, okay? We had a lot planned last Friday during Story Time. We were planning on getting Reifenberg's dating advice to Mr. Urueta here, Alberto, and we were going to talk to him about a lot of different things after Story Time. Now, we set him up for 10 minutes, which we figured is longer than usually we give Hags on Fridays. We wanted to spend a little extra time with Anthony, and we never talk during Story Time. We always give the host, which is the voice of the team, the chance to tell the story, and then we comment. And truth be told, Esteban, we've never seen a Story Time go that long. And not only did I cut him off, like you mentioned, I cut him off a minute after our cutoff time. In fact, had I let him go on, he might have not finished the story until his pregame show was supposed to start, which would have, A, thrown off his broadcast, possibly not even had the pregame show, and then you're dealing with sponsor breaks and everything else. So the truth is, we had to cut him off. We had no choice, because had we let him continue, he might have gone on for a few more minutes, and then he loses his game broadcast, doesn't get to start on time. So the funny thing about Anthony's Story Time was this. When we were sitting listening, we were engaged, and then it kept going and going and going and going. And we were looking at each other in the studio going, is he going to finish before, he needs to? So that way, we already knew that the dating advice was out the window. We knew like by by minute 6 or 7, that was out. But then, as the story kept getting more and more descriptive, we kept thinking, well, how is this going to end, and will it end? And finally, our show, which ended on Friday at 6:26. It was almost 6:28 when I cut Anthony off and had to end the show because we were already we were over the time limit. And the reason I was laughing was because we were laughing the whole show on Friday. It was one giant goof. In fact, Cade was here. Everybody was laughing. Alberto makes me laugh just by looking at him half the time. And then when he's telling a story and he starts cracking up, that's it. I'm gone. I've lost it. So, yeah, it was one of those shows. It was crazy. But in respect to Anthony and Hags and anybody who ever does story time, we never interrupt. We did give a normal time guideline. We never expected story time to go 10-plus minutes, Alberto, and still not even get a solution to story time.
Yeah, it was. I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm just kidding, but he was hitting that 8-minute mark, and then he brought up a suitcase, and then it kind of like seemed like he was about to end. Kind of seemed like the story was coming to an end, and they found a suitcase, and then he kind of takes a pause, and then we're all kind of waiting for him to say, and that's the end, and then he goes, and in that suitcase, and then I think that's when we all just lose control. But it was, just one of those things where we were just surprised he kept going, and we gave him all the time in the world.
We tried.
I think that's what made it better.
We tried. Now, Esteban does have one point interesting. Could I have interrupted Anthony during story time and said, Anthony, we only have 5 minutes left in the show? Yes, but then it throws him off completely. Because then he's trying to figure out, well, what do I cut out? What do I do? He has to do it on the fly. And maybe then the whole story gets ruined also. So I felt like it was a no-win story time situation for anybody involved. Listeners got the shaft because they didn't get to hear how the story ended up. Anthony didn't get to tell the end of the story. And he already was a couple of minutes over, so his pregame show wasn't as long as it needed to be. Because we always give the Chihuahuas 5 minutes on the pregame. I could have interrupted him earlier just to keep the show on time, but I thought that I was praying that story was going to end even a minute late. And then but I will admit, okay, and this is the sick part of me, I will admit that part of me said, don't say a word until the story's over, even if the game has already started, just to see how long this story will go until it's over. That did cross my mind. I'm honestly not kidding. I almost was so curious to see when this story would end. I almost figured, okay, we'll sacrifice part of the broadcast just to see when this thing ends. But I couldn't do it, Alberto. I could not do it. I had to finally put an end to that, even though I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah, he just kind of kept going, and we were on probably chapter 6 of 10 or something, and we just don't know. It's like those unfinished jokes in movies where they'll start a joke and then they'll cut the actor out and you'll never know what happened. It's like that. We were in the middle of story time, and then a game started, so we never found out what happened at the end of the story.
Yes, that's true.
I wonder if we're ever going to get him to call in maybe and tell us what happened.
I don't think so.
He's going to have to start the whole story all over again, though.
Yes, or better yet, we play the first 10 minutes from story time, and then when it ends, he comes back and finishes the story. But this time we do it smart. We do it at like 20 past the hour, then we'll take the SportsCenter break at the bottom, and then let him come back and finish it after SportsCenter.
Yeah, I think that could work, and our viewers would really want that.
Yeah, then he has all the time he wants. Oh, listeners, not viewers. I mean, if you find a way to watch us on the radio, good luck. But no, it's listeners. Viewers is TV. But yeah, I get it. You've done TV too, so I know it's tough sometimes when you got to deal with viewers and listeners. Is Michael ready with SportsCenter?
Always.
All right, let's do it. We've got Michael Plundo, bottom of the hour SportsCenter, and then we'll come back with more in a moment. 600 ESPN El Paso. Good job, Michael. Appreciate that as we keep things moving here. Bottom of the hour now, a little bit past, 34 past as we roll through. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X. That is 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X. And as you just heard from Esteban's tweet, I don't read them all, but I'll read most of them, even if they rip us, like Esteban, who says we humiliated poor Anthony Reifenberg last Friday during story time. And as I said earlier, I did feel bad. My goal was not to cut him off, but I also had no idea we would be almost 11 minutes into story time and still not have the answer to have the end of the story. I didn't know that. And we did mention a time before, so we thought for sure, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. If it's long, But, didn't happen. And the sad part, it's a really cool story. Like, if you Wikipedia that story, it's amazing. It's fascinating. In fact, I don't even know how you tell that story in 3 to 5 minutes. You'd have to cut a lot of details out. But Anthony was being very descriptive during story time. He told us everything from what the shoes were like to the hair, the jacket, how things were combed. He really gave you and painted the picture. You could tell he did his homework, which made it even more sad.
Yeah, he really knew the story really well. The details escape my mind right now because it's been a full weekend after, but he definitely did his homework, and I'm sure he had it written down. I don't think he remembered it. I think he might have had it even written down, so I wonder how long that was. Was it a full page?
I don't know.
Might have been a full page.
Apparently, he even went on to say afterwards that, it was a real cliffhanger, knowing we didn't get the end.
He enjoyed it. He likes leaving us on the edge like that, not knowing what happened, but I wonder if he's going to try next Friday and finish it. Is he going to ask him, hey, I need to finish a story time?
Could be. It's possible. It is possible. 36 past the hour. 505-6009. Rodney Lewis going to be joining us a little bit later in the show. So we'll look forward to that. And, you think about what's going on this week. There is a very big event happening Thursday for UTEP football. Are you familiar with what that's going to be?
Upcoming is the women's football camp, correct?
That's right. That is 100% right. The UTEP Women's Clinic returns this Thursday. In fact, attendees will have dinner, drinks, fun, while learning the ins and outs of the game of football from the minor coaching staff. The clinic will begin at 6 p.m., which, by the way, it's the first UTEP football women's clinic in 8 years, and comes under the direction of Scotty Walden, who said, quote, "We welcome the women of the Sun City to join us for our football clinic. Not only will you learn more about the game, but you'll also get the chance to participate in drills with your minor football team. It's going to be a great time. In fact, women 21 years of age and older can purchase tickets to the clinic. You get dinner, an adult beverage, one adult beverage, and a commemorative T-shirt. And a cash bar will be available, and it's $50 to attend the women's clinic." Well, think about this, okay? Chances are dinner and a drink by itself will probably run you ballpark, I don't know, $30. And then you add the T-shirt on top of it, and then be a part of a clinic like this for UTEP. I feel like you're definitely going to get your money's worth and then some.
Yeah, you get your money's worth, and then you get to meet part of the team, right? You get to meet the coach and be around them and kind of feel for that energy. I think this is a great way to get the game of football to more people who just don't really know it, and you're cracking into a whole new fan base, right? You're hoping that with this football clinic, maybe you can get more families to come out, right? Maybe more women are like, hey, I went to this football clinic and it was a lot of fun. I got really close to the team and the coach, and they're a lot of fun, so I want to start supporting. And I think that's best case scenario. So it does sound like it's going to be a night of a lot of fun. I wonder if there's going to be any football players involved.
There is. There will be football players involved. And by the way, apparently, I didn't even realize this, but this clinic is not going to be at the Durham Center.
It'll be on the field?
Yes.
Well, they're running drills.
That's right.
They're going to be doing sprints, I'm sure. They're going to be doing suicides. They'll be running 40s, tire runs, stuff like that. And then they'll be doing the Oklahoma drill, full contact, everything. They need to learn.
It's going to be 105 degrees on Thursday.
Yes. But luckily it's in the night, so it'll be.
It starts at 6. You know what the temperature is going to be at 6 o'clock tonight?
Probably like 100.
92. Yeah.
It should still be fun once the sun starts setting. It should be a fun time, and especially I'm really curious as to what drills they're going to run and how involved they're going to be with that.
Esteban wants to know if spectators will be allowed at the clinic. I would say no. I feel like this is probably something just for the women and nobody else, because it's going to be on the field. It's catered to them. I doubt male fans, or any fans for that matter, will just be able to sit in the Sun Bowl and watch the clinic from afar. You got to feel like this is probably something that will be more specifically for women.
Yeah, it's only for people at the event. Unfortunately, Esteban wants to set up his chair and just watch like a practice. Sorry, sir, that's not how it is. You have to be a woman. You have to come and pay. But I'm sure they'd love to have you if you pay.
Do you really think Esteban could pay $50 and actually go to this, even though it's made for women? You think he can?
I think if he made a fuss, he could.
Well, nobody makes a better fuss than him.
That's true.
So it is possible.
So there's no better candidate.
Maybe his wife goes.
Yeah.
Maybe she wants to go see it. And he gets a night off and gets a night at the house without her.
And she brings home a T-shirt.
There you go.
And inside knowledge about the football team.
That's right. And comes home with a couple of adult beverages in her, and maybe it's even better. Who knows?
That does sound like a good night for Esteban.
I feel like that could be the biggest win for him in years. Anyway, all right, 20 in front of 6 as we continue here on Sports Talk. We'll take a timeout, come back. Adrian Broadus will be back tomorrow. In the meantime, I've got both Alberto, Michael, and UTEP Zay holding the fort down right here, 600 ESPN El Paso. $49 past the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. Michael Plundo has moved into the talk studio, trying to adjust the microphone. Is it to your liking?
It is. I thought I could move it up to make it more stabilized, but it's okay like this.
No, it's pretty much going to be mouth level for you. And now your old spot is being occupied by UTEP Zay. What's up, Zay?
No, Zay's getting changed real quick.
Oh, is he getting changed?
Or he's in the bathroom, I think.
Like, what is he?
I don't keep tabs on him, but he did say he was not going to be inside right now.
What do you mean getting changed? He's on a sports radio show. What's going on with that?
I'm not sure. I think he has something to do after this.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. Hey, by the way, guys, Stanley Cup tonight, Game 2. Florida leading this 1-0 off that shutout by Bobrovsky in Game 1. Now we'll see if they can take that 2-0 lead. It's going to be on ABC in about 10 minutes from now.
Yeah, it should be a good one for sure. I mean, I really liked how Florida played in Game 1. You know, every opportunity they got, it was a good one. They made the most of it. And Sergei, as you said, a shutout. He held strong against the Oilers, and pretty impressive considering the talent that they have in McDavid and Draisaitl. So we'll see if Bobrovsky can keep it going.
I'm with you on that one. I'm hoping. I just feel like this is going to be a 7-game series. I don't think Edmonton's going to go away that easily.
I can agree there somehow, Steve, but I just feel that Florida is a better constructed team than Edmonton. I don't know if I can trust Stuart Skinner in the net for a long period of time because he's been benched multiple times this whole postseason run. Calvin Pickard had to come in and pick up the slack from him. And if you remember last year, Stuart Skinner was even demoted to the AHL. So, I mean, he's really turned it around this season, but he still had his moments. So we'll see if he can be trusted.
All right. So that, again, coming up here at 6 o'clock on ABC with the Panthers and the Oilers. Florida, you're right, though. That's a terrific team. They are a team that last year came so close, and they made them even better. And there are certain teams you could just say are built for a Stanley Cup. That team is exactly that, built to win
100%.
A Stanley Cup.
100%. I love, I love Kachuk. I also love that lineup of Reinhart, Verhaeghe, and Sam Bennett. I love Florida's team. I think they have everything you want in a hockey team. They got the speed, they're physical, and they're getting great play out of Sergei Bobrovsky, which has been the Achilles heel for the Panthers a couple years ago when he signed that 8-year contract. He almost was going to get bought out of that contract before they made that Stanley Cup run last year. So it's really nice to see him turn his game around.
I'm with you on that one. Again, keep an eye on that one, hockey fans. Terrific stuff with the Stanley Cup final tonight on ESPN Plus and ABC. Meanwhile, Zay's back. I never heard of anybody that leaves to go get dressed in the middle of sports talk. What was the problem?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got some engagements coming up after sports talk, so
do you?
I had to get ready.
I got you. Engagements meaning Are you like dressed up from where you were when you got here, or are you dressed down?
I just to change the shoes, honestly. It was just a
That's
change
it?
of shoes, refresh myself, get ready. Nothing crazy.
Okay, that's good. Well, and very nice of you to not change your shoes in front of Alberto in the studio, man. That's very good of you. Both of you, I'm talking Alberto and Michael. You're big Steelers fans. Are you happy with the news today that Mike Tomlin gets extended? A guy that has been there forever. It always seems like every couple of years, people are saying, all right, maybe it's time to finally cut ties with Tomlin and go in a different direction. But he always finds ways to deliver with no matter what hand he's dealt with out there in Pittsburgh.
That's what a good coach does, and I'm absolutely ecstatic that he's going to be in Pittsburgh for 3 more years. I mean, you look at what he's just done with the Steelers. His resume speaks for itself. Has not had a losing season in his entire career as a coach with the Steelers, and the players love him. I mean, when your best player, T.J. Watt, loves Mike Tomlin and he's ready to run through a wall for him, that's a good sign because you want your players to buy into the coaches. You want those good relationships, and really, if you look at the Steelers the past couple years, you can maybe put some of the blame on Tomlin why they haven't been able to have these postseason runs, but it's really the quarterback play ever since Ben retired. I mean, Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett have not gotten the job done for the Steelers. They haven't, both of them alone, they haven't even eclipsed over 10 touchdown passes in a season. That's abysmal. That's pathetic. And Ben in his final season, which people called him washed for, he was still able to put up 22 touchdown passes and 10 interceptions. So I really think Tomlin is not to put all the blame on. I really think it goes more into that for why the Steelers haven't been able to have the success they normally have in the postseason.
I really like Mike Tomlin. He's my guy, but unfortunately for me, the 3-year extension, I don't see it as necessarily a really good thing. I'll just let you guys know this: Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
That's reality.
And that's the reality. True. And you're going to give him 3 more years. And I'll just ask you this: can you take 3 more years of making the playoffs and not winning a game? Sliding into the playoffs just above 500, is that what you want? And that's just the questions I'm asking, is because that's what's been happening, right? We slide in just above 500. Everyone praises him for not going below 500, but we don't win a playoff game, and we're not competing for playoff games.
And to your point about, the playoffs, and I agree, you're 100% right. We haven't been able to get a playoff win in the past 6 years, and that's got to change. It's their longest drought in team history as of now. But again, look at who they've had to work with. I mean, you go from now Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky to Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and I want to put this stat out there. Russell Wilson's 26 touchdown passes last year. He didn't even finish the full season, by the way. Those touchdown passes were more than any Steelers quarterback in the last 2 years.
Tells you something.
The combination of Mitchell Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, and Mason Rudolph too, has combined for 25 touchdown passes in 2 years, and Russell Wilson put up 26 last year.
Yeah, and that was a down year for him. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right. More in a moment as we continue. Rodney Lewis is going to call into the show to begin our 6 o'clock hour. We'll talk with the longtime Chapin Husky and talk about his decision to step down today. Stay with us. That conversation coming up live right here on 600 ESPN El Paso. From the 600 ESPN El Paso River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studios, welcome back, everybody, to our final hour here on Sports Talk. We've got Alberto Urueta, Michael Plundo hanging out with me. Steve Kaplowitz with you. Adrian will be back tomorrow. He's taking care of some good stuff involving families and somebody in the family who's graduating. So he wanted to be with his family tonight and take part in that celebration. Happy for Adrian. Happy I get a chance to work with these two guys and Zay, and super happy about our next guest who's joining us live on our Longhorn Distributing Hotline, where all of our guests always appear. In fact, I said it earlier that on a day when Dan Hurley turns down the Lakers and we have the Celtics up 2-0 in the finals, this is the biggest story in El Paso sports here today. So we've got longtime Chapin boys basketball head coach Rodney Lewis with us on our Longhorn Distributing Hotline. And Coach, welcome back. And man, oh man, you found a way to steal the headlines today.
I didn't plan on it to go this way. Anybody that knows me knows that I definitely didn't want it to come out like this early. My daughter is actually graduating tomorrow morning from Andrews, and then I have my other daughters in town. So I didn't expect to be having to deal with this today.
I hear you. Well, first off, congratulations for your daughter. Happy about her graduating from Andrews. I'm sure you are thrilled about that. Plus, you've got your family in town. That's a big deal. But when word first started to leak that you were stepping down from Chapin, it was a story that for a lot of us, I guess we're caught a little bit off guard because even though there might have been some whispers over the years, we didn't really think that you would take an opportunity to step away from a school and a program that you've built into a legitimate, not just a city power, Coach, but a statewide power and a team nationally to be reckoned with over the last 6 seasons.
Yeah, it wasn't like an easy decision for me. There were plenty nights I sat up. I don't sleep well. Plenty nights I sat up and shared some tears. But this decision had to come from me because I'm in a place in my life where my family needs me more. I need to be better in my personal life. I've given so much to the Northeast and to other people where I have to put my family first.
I understand.
Tough decision.
Yeah, I hear you, Coach, and I know it's emotional for you, and again, we appreciate you coming on with us live and talking about it. I'm just curious for you. You tell me, when did you first start to think about this and give serious thought to stepping away from high school coaching?
So, kind of like a little bit last year, when KJ decided to that he was gonna, we talked about it, and he decided that they were gonna transfer. I kind of started thinking about it then, but what motivated me to continue is because I knew the city was, they haven't been too kind to me. I don't think that I truly get the credit I deserve for trying to put El Paso basketball on the map in the state. And so when KJ left, I was going to think about it then, but then I knew that there were going to be some critics that say, okay, Chapin basketball is done. KJ Lewis was everything, and he was a great player for us and our program, and he changed the trajectory of Chapin basketball. However, I knew I had other players, and so that was the motivation for me to come back then. Last year, after we lost to Summit, I was thinking about it again, but then Brandon Himes, who I've known since he was a little kid, decided he wanted to stay and come back and play another year. And I go way back with Brandon. I love Brandon. And so I said that's more motivation for me to try to do it again this year. And then after we lost this year, I just felt I was drained. Like, I'm still drained because we just barely finished getting our accolades from the city. I mean, we just went to City Hall on June 4th. So the season, what people don't understand is the more you win, the more the expectations are, the higher the standard got to be. And it's a grind, Steve. It's a grind. Every year we finish one season when everybody else is already starting their off season. We're still getting accolades, having meetings, and doing all that stuff. And then we got to go right back into it. I haven't had a break, I can tell you this, in like 20 years.
Wow.
So it's been, because I wanted to be the coach to lead an El Paso team to a state championship. That's all I ever thought of, and that's all I ever wanted. The other stuff is cool, but it's not what the goal was. The goal was to win state.
I look at all the years you spent with Jim Forbes and when you went out with him in Andrus. And then I see what you've done now with Chapin. And I understand it. I mean, you were a part of that team that was so successful. And, Coach Forbes, again, somebody who was one of the most respected coaches in the city because he played for UTEP, played for Coach Haskins, had the opportunity to get into coaching and make a name for himself here in the city. And you saw firsthand what he was able to accomplish and realized where that bar was set. And I'm sure you probably thought to yourself, you know what? I can do that and see if we could try to take it to even bigger heights while I was over at Chapin.
Yeah. So how many? What I say is, how many people get to be mentored by a legend? Mm-hmm. Like, how can I not succeed when I spent 11 years with Coach Jim Forbes, like the greatest human being I ever met in my life? He knows way more basketball than I can ever. He probably forgot more than I ever know. He was just the greatest guy, just not basketball-wise, just the things he taught me as a man and being a father figure to me. I was kind of a rough around the edges, and Coach Forbes mentored me and showed me how to make it, showed me how to navigate as a coach. And I would have stayed with Coach until I couldn't stay with him no more, but you kind of grow, and you kind of, I kind of felt like, okay, it's time for me to try to do my own thing. Anything I've ever accomplished in basketball, Steve, I owe Coach Forbes a mountain of gratitude. Like, I can't even thank him enough for just getting me to be right, just giving me somebody to look up to. I could never be him, and I never wanted to be him. I just wanted to if I can get my name right underneath his, then I feel like I've accomplished everything I wanted to. So I just take that as I'm just honored to even be in this situation, man.
Coach Rodney Lewis with us here on Sports Talk as we continue. I'm curious, as you were able to start to do big things for Chapin, and at the same time, Coach Forbes was still with us at that point. What was it? Did you guys have some great conversations even while you were on opposing sides, and he had a chance to just, tell you, I'm sure probably how proud he was of you, seeing what you were building and what you were doing over there at Chapin?
Yes. It's a funny thing about Coach Forbes, man. We'll talk about everything else except basketball, right? So, like, when you see us, when we play against Andrews and we meet at half court, we're not even talking about personnel. We're not talking about the game. He's saying something that's probably going to make me laugh because he knows I'm locked in. So he's already buttering me up. It's probably the reason why, outside of him being the legend and the greatest of all time, is probably one of the reasons why he's the only coach in this city I have a losing record to. And because I'm sitting there laughing at him before the game, and he's saying some crazy stuff about Redskins or the Yankees, and we like our friendship is all the way up until Coach passed away. What people don't know, like, when I came back, they wanted it to be animosity. They wanted to make a story. Oh, Coach Lewis at Chapin, he left Andrews, and there's some beef. And there was never any beef between Coach and I. Right from the moment I got the Chapin job, he's always been still my mentor, telling me how to handle things. If we made a run or we were doing something, he's called me and give me some advice on how to handle a certain team or what kind of plays he suggests, and I would do the same for him. It was, like, you can't understand how valuable that is, that you can still have that kind of mentorship, friendship, and you're still getting it from the greatest of all time. You're getting that kind of love. I had no choice but to succeed, Steve. It was too easy.
Coach, have you had the opportunity yet to talk to your team and kind of explain to them this decision and really get the opportunity to just address your club, since you have a lot of talent returning, including Jaden Leverett. You've got that win streak that's still very much intact. That's one of the most impressive things we've ever seen in El Paso, and I'm just curious to how that talk went with your club.
The funny thing about this, Steve, what people don't even know, except my team and my coaching staff, I told them I was resigning in November. So we played that whole year with them knowing that this was it for me.
Wow.
and they did a tremendous job trying to get us to the championship. We tried, and we don't do it just for the Northeast or just for Chapin. We really want to do it for El Paso. And so this is how it came about. We were in that Mansfield tournament. It's a great tournament. It was tough, and we just wasn't playing right. And then we came into the locker room, and I can see that it was Brandon Hines' first time as being the number one guy. It was Jaden Leverett first time as being a special guy, like having a big role. And so we just wasn't gelling on the court. So we had to have a player-coach meeting. And in that meeting, it got really emotional. Like, we all cried, tears. And meanwhile, we still have a tournament to play. But I told them then, like, hey, man, like, I just want to win state. Like, this is my last year. And so my players already knew since, like, the Mansfield tournament. And from that point on, we went on a pretty good we won out that tournament. Got to play on Sunday. And anybody that knows Mansfield tournament, if you playing on a Sunday in Mansfield, it's a big deal.
Yep.
Like, it's state champions playing, it's state contenders, highly ranked teams that's in that tournament. And we end up getting to the Sunday game and finishing 4-1, and that changed our season. But that's just to let you know what kind of kids I have, man. It's bigger than basketball. Like, they knew that I was going to resign at the end of the year, but they fought so hard to try to win. And so they already know, like, we've already been prepared for this.
Coach, how many wins consecutively against El Paso High Schools right now? What's
We're
the streak?
at 73.
Oh, my God. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the last loss we had was against Coach Ford's Andrews team during COVID, and right when COVID started, so Coach was still with us. It was January 30th, I think, 2021. So we've beaten every El Paso team we face, and I know there's going to be a couple teams that we haven't played, and their fan base is really big on making sure that they let me know that we didn't play them, so it doesn't count. So, you know.
Now,
we're
as far as your successor, you've got very good assistants in place, and only time will tell what Chapin decides to do as far as their next head coach. It's going to be a very attractive job. You've left it in unbelievable shape, so we could be getting looks from some big names all around the state, which we probably would expect. But I'm sure for you probably feel like right now the program is in good hands if they decide to hire from within and promote one of your assistants to your successor.
Yes, I trust the staff that I had. Those guys, you don't really know them. They're not like big names, but there's no Coach Lewis and there's no winning streak. There's no 4 regional tournaments without my coaching staff. And so I love my coaching staff to death. And I hope that that somebody within the staff, whoever applies, I hope that the school, I know I endorsed one of my assistant coaches to take over because he's been with me. He knows the grind. He knows the kids. I believe that the kids would love for him to be the coach. And I'm not a part of the hiring process, so I don't know which way the principal and the committee is going to go. But I believe in any one of my coaching staff to be a great fit to follow me. But on the flip side, I am so happy because the only thing I always wanted to do was leave the place better than I found it. So if it means that it attracts people from outside the city, then that, as a coach, I'm very happy about that we've put on enough for our city to make other people from around the state want to try to come and get this job. I'm thrilled that I was able to help change the narrative about El Paso basketball.
Coach, can you elaborate on the assistant that you have endorsed to take the position if they get the opportunity? I'd rather not, Steve,
Okay.
because I don't want it to have to be a detriment
to him.
I understand.
So my example is, because I told Sam Guzman the same thing. My example is if I say his name and then he gets the job, everybody going to be like, well, that's unfair. They knew they were going to give him the job.
Sure.
He knows that he has to fight hard for it. He has to work his butt off. He has to interview. He has to prove that he can lead. And I've been talking to him and preparing him. I think he's ready. So I would like to see that happen for him and for the kids. But I would rather not say, because I don't want, like, it to hurt him in the process.
Now, you are only 2 years older than I am, and I can't see myself being out of work for any length of time. And for you, you're going to be with your family. You got emotional early talking about it, so I know how much that means to you. And I'm happy that you're going to get that chance to finally take some time away, spend time that you need with your family. But on the flip side, I can't see you being done with coaching forever. There will come a time at some point where you will probably get the itch again to get back into it. You've already proven yourself in El Paso. There is nothing more you can do than what you've done at Chapin other than win a state title. So that begs the question that if and when the time does come to get back into the game, I would want you, and you probably would say the same thing for yourself, you probably would seek the next challenge. And the next challenge could be in the DFW area. It could be in Houston. It could be in another area in the state that's a powerhouse. It could be in another state, someplace else around the country. But, I mean, eventually, Coach, I just, basketball's in your blood. You've been doing it for a long time, and I'm sure that sometime down the road, you will probably have the desire to want to get back into basketball coaching again at some level.
Yeah, I'm not done with basketball at all. Like, I know that I'm gonna, if I'm blessed to stay at Chapin, as a teacher, as an educator, I'm gonna still be talking to the guys, and I'm going to still drop by the gym. So I'm still going to show up to basketball games across the city. I'm still going to go continue to support the Northeast youth and show up to games. My daughter Jada is still playing. She still has 2 more years of high school ball. So I'll still be around if I'm here in El Paso. But to answer your question, I am going to take this year off. Unless something major, a major situation happens that would make me think about coaching again. But as of today, I'm planning on not coaching at the coming up season.
Well, maybe you'll be our high school basketball analyst, and you can make regular appearances here on Sports Talk during the season and give us your thoughts on everything going on, since you'll have a little extra time on your hands.
I would love to do that. I mean, because like you said, basketball is in my blood, so I'm not stepping away from the game. I'm just stepping away from a very, very, very good position, the best in the city, I think, and one of the best in the state. But sometimes your health and your mental health and your family, you have to make decisions to step away and give yourself some time to regroup. And I just don't want to cheat kids. I never want to do that. But I'll still be around.
Rodney, to say we're impressed with the job you've done at Chapin is an understatement. You've been terrific. You've built El Paso into a major power, both statewide and nationally with Chapin High. You deserve all the credit in the world, and congratulations. We recognize that and just wanted to let you know just how proud we are of the job you've been able to do over these last 6-7 years out of Chapin.
Man, I appreciate it, Steve, and it's always good to talk to you guys, you, Adrian. I know my man Zay somewhere around there. I love you, Zay. Thank you for everything you're doing, young man, and learn from the best when you're dealing with Steve. Learn from the best, man, and become the next great El Paso guy reporting on sports. I appreciate you guys for everything you guys do.
Coach, enjoy your summer, and we'll be back in touch with you here before you know it.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much.
You got it. He's head coach Rodney Lewis. What a job he's done out at Chapin, and we appreciate all the time he's given us here in our 6 o'clock hour. We'll take a timeout, come back, and plenty more sports talk coming up. 600 ESPN El Paso. our thanks again to Coach Lewis from Chapin for being kind enough to spend some time and really talk about his decision. I did not realize that he had actually told everybody back in November, his team, his coaching staff, that this was basically the last dance for his Chapin team and trying to go out as with the state title. I thought that was really interesting note because a lot of us figured that this had just gone down, but now we find out that no, this is actually something that had been talked about for a while.
Yeah, you know what though? It kind of makes a lot more sense when you think about it. It's just if you tell them once the news breaks, or you tell them right before the news breaks, or the season's already over and they didn't know, they're kind of feel like, well, what? You surprised us with this. I would have rather known beforehand. So yeah, it makes a lot more sense for them to know once the season's going on. Because obviously it's a little plus. You're going to get a little more from them. But more than anything is they don't feel surprised at the end, and they're still going to be able to look you in the eye and tell them, no, he told us straight-faced very, very far in advance he was leaving, so we had time to adjust.
That's true. Michael, you look at the legacy, though, 73 straight wins in terms of district play, and not just district, El Paso play. I mean, the last time he lost to an El Paso team, he mentioned 2021 going up against his former mentor, Jim Forbes.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff right there. And this next Chapin coach, he's got some big shoes to fill. That is not going to be easy to take on right away. But, as we heard it from him, he said that the program is in great shape. So I think they'll be fine in the grand scheme of things. But, time will tell because of, what Ronnie was able to do with Chapin.
4 minutes into this hockey game going on right now, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup. How about Florida outshooting Edmonton 8-1, although we're dealing in a scoreless game so far?
Yeah, I mean, Florida's, getting off to an early jump here. If you remember at the start of Game 1, it was Edmonton doing exactly what Florida's doing to them right now. They were out shooting them 11-3, and now Florida's, handing it to them. They know they can get past Stuart Skinner, and that's why they're trying to make his life uncomfortable right now.
Yep, you're right. More in a moment as we hit the bottom of the hour, but let's get right back to the aforementioned Michael Plundo. He's going to deliver one last bottom of the hour Sports Center update for us. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that as we keep things moving right now. And, man, oh, man, you talk about some of those Sports Center updates and interesting storylines all the way around right now as we get into our final 30 minutes together. In fact, if you've listened to any of today's show and you want to chime in, whether it's our two guests, Dave DuFour and Rodney Lewis, who both joined us on our Longhorn Distributing Hotline, where all of our guests always appear, we could do that today as well. Plus, we also had the opportunity to have Tim Haggerty join us on our Longhorn Distributing Hotline in our 5 o'clock hour. We've been busy today on the hotline. Guests every hour. Hags telling those great stories. Just out of curiosity, with the two of you, have either of you been to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown?
I have not, but it's on my bucket list to go.
Have you been to any professional sports Hall of Fames?
No, actually. I haven't even been to the football one out in Canton, but I want to go. I think it's a cool experience for, sports enthusiasts like myself, so it's got to happen.
If you guys had to, how about you, Alberto? Have you been to any?
I have been to Canton, and I'm going to have to say for the NFL one, it's a yes and no. So I haven't been to the one, I don't know where the NFL one is.
It's in Canton, Ohio.
I haven't been to that one. But
you've been to Canton?
No, I haven't been to Canton, but one time when I visited Phoenix, they had like an excerpt of the NFL Hall of Fame.
Like a traveling exhibit?
Yes, and they had like stuff like from the game, and also but like interactive stuff. So it was cool. So, but I got to measure my hand size. I got to see the jerseys. I saw Ben Roethlisberger's jersey from the Super Bowl that he won, the second one. So yeah, it was really cool. But I haven't been to the baseball one, and no, I haven't been to any other one. My uncle's actually in the Juarez Pro Sports Hall of Fame.
He is?
Yeah.
Wow. What did your uncle do to get into the Juarez Pro Sports Hall of Fame?
Yeah. My uncle is a doctor by trade, so he's got an MD. And during college, he was on the football team. And then, like after he graduated, he like just continued to play. He plays softball, he plays soccer, he plays flag football. And so through his like years at collegiate football, he got into the Sports Hall of Fame. But he's also like continued playing still.
Now, when you say football, do you mean American football or do you mean soccer?
No, American football, like padded American football.
So he's done everything.
Yeah, and he's a doctor. So like he would literally have to be studying to be a doctor on the bus back from games, and Cuauhtemoc.
Oh, that's
Chihuahua.
cool. I didn't realize it, but I guess they've been playing American football for many, many years out in Mexico, haven't they?
Yeah, my dad tells stories of him playing high school football in Mexico, and he tells how bad his team was and how bad he was. So, yeah. I mean, football's not fun when you're not good and you're not really big. So
no, nobody really enjoys it.
All he talks about is like it hurts so bad, and I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't sound fun.
Well, yeah, you played high school baseball, but you didn't play high school football.
No, my parents didn't let me play football.
Okay. Don't worry. I wouldn't let my son play high school. If my son wanted to say, I want to go play football, I'd be like, no, not going to happen. So I'll let him play other sports, just football, not looking to do that. So
that's fair. I mean, I'll say this. The first time I ever put on a helmet was in 7th grade, and I didn't even play a single game because I got hurt in the second week of practice. So
you did?
Yep, my football career was short-lived.
What position did you play?
I was a cornerback, and I fractured my metatarsal on a drill.
Really? On a drill? Not even trying to make a tackle or in a game?
Not even in the game, nope. I mean, as I said, I didn't even suit up for a game. I was out the whole season. I had a boot on for half the year, and I was kind of disappointed in myself. I wanted to go out there, make some plays, because, at the time I enjoyed playing football, backyard with my friends, and it was just a good time. So it hurt to, not be able to do that.
No, I understand. Well, I'm sorry for that. It's a tough break.
But
on the flip side, I get it. I understand the situation. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say things worked out in the end. Honestly,
I feel like they worked out just fine for you.
Yep.
All right, 36 past the hour, 505-6009, our telephone number as we continue here on Sports Talk. If you guys had to pick, let's just say you could visit, the Hall of Fame in all sports, what order would it go? Let's say you've got basketball, baseball, football, hockey, or any other Hall of Fame. There could be boxing, there's the International Boxing Hall of Fame in upstate New York. Where would you guys want to go if you could go to any sports Hall of Fame?
So there's really only 4 sites I want to visit, and in this order, I'll go from least to best. From number 4, I'm going to start off with basketball. I mean, again, I love the sport of basketball, but I'm not dying to go see it. At number 3, I got baseball. I've really become a big baseball enthusiast over the last couple years than I did back in middle school, so it's really grown on me. At number 2, I love hockey. I mean, hockey's been my sport, since I was a little kid, and I continue to love the game. And number 1 is football. Nothing's going to beat that for me.
So Canton, Ohio would be the first thing for you.
Yes, sir. 100%.
Okay. What about you, Alberto?
Yeah, I'd put Canton, Ohio at the top of mine. Just FIFA doesn't have a Hall of Fame, and so I'd probably go NFL, MLB, and then that's kind of just really the only ones that you really hear about that you're like, this is one that you want to go to. I don't think any of the other ones are stuff that I'm inherently super interested in visiting.
Okay, so I'll be a little different in the sense that I've been to Cooperstown about 2 or 3 times over the years, but I want to go back. My last trip to Cooperstown was 2002. I went with a great college buddy of mine, and we just had the greatest time out there at the Hall of Fame. But it's been 20 years. So for me, going back to Cooperstown, taking my son would probably be number 1, even though I've been there already, because I want to see, because he would appreciate it because of how much he loves baseball, the history and all that. So I'll go 1 there. 2, I'm going to go basketball because there's so much UTEP representation at the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. Springfield would be a fun place to visit anyway because it's Springfield, Mass. But look, you've got Don Haskins, you have Nolan Richardson, you have the 66 team, you have Tim Hardaway, and you've got Tiny Archibald. That's 5. So for me, as somebody that's grown up around UTEP, I'll put Basketball Hall of Fame all over the place because I'd love to see what the Hoops Hall looks like. So that would be 2. 3 then would be Canton because I am interested in the Pro Football Hall of Fame just from what I've heard and, the city, how they get involved for the hall and what it's about. It looks fantastic, the way they salute the game. And the funny thing is, I love hockey. And I think Toronto and the Hockey Hall of Fame would be amazing.
I agree.
I don't think there's a bad trip amongst those 4. I feel like no matter what you do, whether it's the Hockey Hall in Toronto, Cooperstown, Canton, or Springfield, they're going to be great experiences no matter what. But for me personally, because of all that UTEP tie-in at the Hoops Hall, I'd want to go see that too.
Absolutely. I mean, they're all amazing sites that I think everyone should go see if they have the opportunity to. And Toronto's been one of my places that has been on my bucket list to visit. I've heard really good things about it. I've had friends that have lived there. So if I can have an opportunity to go to Toronto one day, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I've heard amazing things about Toronto, Canada. Yeah. I want to visit Toronto. I want to visit Montreal. There's a lot of cities in Canada I still want to have the opportunity to visit. I've only been to Vancouver, which was gorgeous in itself, but there's plenty more in Canada where I'd like to go see.
Same goes for me.
All right. You?
I've never been to Canada. I was just thinking, like, oh, I haven't been to Canada.
Would you like to go to Canada?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to go to Canada. It may be a little too cold, but I think I could fight it for a little bit.
It's not all that bad. There are some cities that are not as cold as others would be.
I've lived in negative degree weather before. Canada, you can survive there.
I was going to say, you were living in Pennsylvania, right?
No, actually.
Or was it upstate New York?
Upstate New York, yes. When my dad got his MBA at Cornell University in this town called Ithaca, New York, my first ever winter there, we experienced negative degree weather for about a week. It was bad, but, I mean, we made the most of it. Went out there, went sledding. You can do a lot of things when it snows 6 to 8 inches. You can.
I was going to say, you probably got enough snow that year to last you a lifetime.
For sure, yes. The second winter was nothing like that. It was much, more friendly and much more calmer, but I had a good time, experiencing the snow because that's not something you really get in El Paso all the time.
41 past, the Sports Talk continues. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up next. Final countdown right after KVIA News with Paul Cicala and a whole lot more. 600 ESPN El Paso. We got our first goal that was scored in the Stanley Cup, and
Matthias Ekholm.
How about the fact that it is Edmonton who gets on the board first?
Yep, Matthias Ekholm on a power play. That's a really good boost for Edmonton and a great way to start this game. On their first shot on goal. Wow. Man. Look at that.
That is wild. And by the way, that is the first goal given up in the Stanley Cup Finals by Bobrovsky.
Yep, that is correct. I mean, like we said.
Right through the 5-hole, it looks like.
Yeah.
Got to see the replay on that one. But it looks like they beat him right under the pads, and they did.
Yeah, they did. They beat it right through Gustav Forsling, who almost blocked that shot. So really nice play there by Ekholm.
We'll see if that gives Edmonton a little burst here during the Stanley Cup Finals, knowing, that's, believe it or not, that's the kind of goal that you never expect him to give up because he's been so good in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, he's really turned it up. I mean, that's why Florida has been able to do what they've done. I mean, when you get great goaltending during these Stanley Cup runs, it's going to do you some favors. And with the offensive firepower that Florida has, it's really... And they almost just put one in right now, just right over the crossbar.
Man, I know it. And, they're putting the pressure on. 4-on-4, by the way. They're skating for the next minute and 19 seconds. So we'll see what happens and if this game will stay 1-0 or if the Florida Panthers, with their offensive pressure, can get right back into it. It's a good one, though. It's going on right now on ABC. We'll probably be checking this one out long after we get off the air here in the next 10 minutes. Alberto, FC Juarez has released their schedule for the 2024 Apertura season, and they will open up on July the 5th at home against Atlas. And you tell me, as you're looking at this schedule, what immediately comes to mind?
Well, the first thing you notice is Atlas is that first game. It might be an easier one, but the rest after that they kind of toughen up, right? The first 6 games, the first 5 games after the Atlas game are kind of difficult. So Atlas, they finished towards the end of the table, but Toluca didn't, and so we'll start ringing them off. Toluca finished 3rd in the table last season. They made a playoff run. Pumas made a playoff run. They play them here at home, and then they host America July 20th. America won the league, and then they play Necaxa. Necaxa had a phenomenal season, so it'll be a rocky start, against playoff teams, good teams. Luckily, though, you get a lot of them here at home, and you can do some damage that way. But, yeah, I'm excited for what's to come here. They have a lot of work to do.
America will be the highlight of the Apertura season. Who are some of the other big opponents at home that you can just look and say, man, these will be big matches as far as fans go?
Well, it's that America game, the game before it, Pumas on July 17th. That one's a good one. And then on the 22nd of September, they play Tigres at home. That's a pretty big one. They had some trouble this year with their coach. They got rid of him, but that's probably the big 3 games are those, Tigres, Pumas, and America, because after that you don't play any other marquee names at home.
No, you're right. In fact, you look at their home games, they're July 5th, July the 17th, and July the 20th. And then they really don't play, they don't have a home game in August. So they don't play much in August. There's only 2 matches, and that's probably, if you think about it, I'm trying to think why the August schedule is so is going to be so abbreviated.
Yeah, they have a Leagues Cup.
Okay.
So they have another tournament like that goes on during that time, and it's kind of difficult to work it in. And so that's why there's that pause. It'll be affected by the games that have already been scheduled. And so, yeah, Liga MX is going to do another tournament with MLS.
Gotcha. So they play again September 13th at home, then the 22nd of September, then October 19th, 27th, and they wrap it up November 6th in their final home match before they end their season on the road November 9th.
Yeah, it's a long season, and it gets close to December, but, I mean, that's just how Mexican soccer, it feels like they just finished. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for them to make another appearance in the Leagues Cup, their second international trophy. They did all right in that first one. You know, they had good outings against Austin FC, but they're not able to advance to the next round. It'll be interesting to see if they can get that done this time.
All right, so that's what they have going on. And then what is Fecha FIFA?
Also, Fecha FIFA means that, like, it's a FIFA break.
Gotcha.
So, like, FIFA has tournaments going on during that time, and so they don't play.
That makes sense. So they also have another break during that point as well. That's why the schedule starts in July and goes all the way through November.
Yeah, so they just have they try to work everything in at once, and then FIFA will break everybody to have World Cup qualifiers and other tournaments. So there's kind of a lot in pause, and that's what extends the season into early November, right? So that's early November. It'll probably be finishing up in early December once the playoffs are done.
Gotcha. Meanwhile, if you go to the website, 600ESPNElPaso.com, Chad Gable is a professional wrestler for the WWE. Sebastian Perez Navarro took a good read on Gable. By the way, I'm thinking, what do you think about this, guys? What do you think about having a wrestling podcast involving Sebastian? He is a super fan. He writes wrestling columns on our website all the time. I almost feel like we've got to get Sebastian on the podcast to do a wrestling podcast. What do you think?
I think that would do phenomenal because he knows so much about the wrestling. I haven't been watching, so it's kind of he's talking to a wall when he tries to talk to me about WWE. But hearing him talk about it is he knows what he's talking about. He knows the names. He knows the players. He knows how it works and the ins and outs of WWE. And he gets really excited, and that's what, to me, makes it really viewable content.
I am with you on that one. So check that out on 600ESPNElPaso.com. Meanwhile, we got a whole lot more for the rest of the week scheduled for you. Cade will be here. We're going to have more with Michael, more with Alberto. Adrian will be dropping by tomorrow and the rest of this week. And again, looking forward to all of you joining us throughout the week. Been a lot of fun today, and if you missed any of today's program, we'll have it for you up on 600 ESPN El Paso on demand, wherever you listen to Sports Talk podcast. In the meantime, for Michael Plundo, for Alberto Dueta, and for UTEP Zay, I'm Steve Kaplowitz. Thanks so much for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow right back here at 4 o'clock on 600 ESPN El Paso.